This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. This is the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom, home of Passive Income University and Cash Flow Coaching, teaser. More to come on that. But today we are having our episode 15 with Robby T talking about making $1,000 a month renting out your vehicle. Robby T, thanks for being on, man.
Dude, I'm so excited. It's been fun to see you grow this community, and it was a lifelong dream to be one of the hosts with you. So I'm excited about it, bud.
Yes, we're helping you achieve your dreams today, Robby. I appreciate you saying the nice words. And
You're
dude,
welcome.
I absolutely love what you're up to with this. But first, let me introduce you to our audience. Robby T is a big deal if you haven't known this. So listen closely here. Okay. Robby Trefethrin is known as the lead geek.
Either,
yes,
so don't even worry
that's
about
why
it.
That's why we call him Robby T.
Yeah.
Robby T is known as the lead geek for a reason. He has devoted the last 7 years to mastering the lead conversion game. He shares his thoughts within Lead Geeks community, his coaching clients, our team, or your team, and anyone willing to listen. And by the way, Robby just dropped a book. Again, we'll put some more links in the comment section for our audience, or the bio section. But I wanted to give you a plug on that. Robby started out in real estate as an ISA in 2013. In 3 years, he made over 100,000 calls, contacted 10,000 plus leads, set over 1,000 appointments. This led to nearly 500 closings for Hatch Realty in Fargo at the time, which at the time was an enigma in the real estate community. He has since merged his lead conversion skills and passion for learning to coach and train many of the top real estate teams in the country. Robby is the brains behind Hatch ISA, Hatch Systems, and Messaging. These products are used by over 400 real estate teams around the country, including some of the biggest names like Robert Slack, Gary Ashton, Mike Novak, and Hatch Realty. Robert is also an owner and coach of Hatch Coaching, which is helping the industry redefine how people treat people. Robby is recognized as the most sought after and trusted authority in lead conversion. There are 4 legs to the Hatch coaching stool. 1, highly customized individual coaching. 2, masterminds, events, and group coaching. 3, digital trainings and marketplace full of products created to benefit realtors. And 4, messaging and systems that put lead follow-up on autopilot. Robby lives in Fargo with his amazing wife, Lauren, and 3 incredible kiddos. Robby, thank you for being here. Dude, I hope the audience gets a really good bite of your credibility in that space, man, in your space.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that, how that journey's gone a little bit, just to touch on some of that bio a little bit.
Well, it's really funny because in my work, I actually got to work alongside you, Kyle, which was really, really awesome, along with many, many others at Hatch Realty. I think a couple of things, man. I always kind of jokingly say my story is one that's kind of like the epitome of, if I can go create this lead conversion expertise out of nowhere. I mean, when I got into the game, nobody knew what ISAs were. Lead conversion was a drop in the bucket compared to what it is now. And now, I mean, you're exposed to the real estate game. ISA has been a buzzword now for a good 3-4 years, and we are honored to be kind of the cutting edge of that. It's weird, man. It's weird, first off, hearing you say all that about me. It's an odd thing to hear. I don't know if you've had someone do that to you, but it's a weird thing to hear verbally. Not in a bad way, just odd. But life's great, man. I come from a family. My joke about my last name is I go by Robby T because my last name is Trefethrin, which sounds like a pharmaceutical drug with all the problems and none of the money. And for me, I always talk about I study psychology a lot. Like really, I don't care about sales, but I love psychology and the human brain and thoughts and patterns fascinate me. And the reality is, when it comes to the human psyche, almost everybody is motivated and they're running from something or towards something, or a
Mm,
combination of both. And it's really interesting because most of my life I was running away from being entrapped to poverty, like a lot of my extended family has been. And I love them, but I would never want to live their life. And there's just a lot of stress, and I was close enough to poverty to know I never wanted to walk in those shoes, but not enough in it that it broke me. So for me, man, it's why I invest. We obviously there's the whole fire movement, the financially independent retire early. And for me, I love the idea of passive income because it's true freedom. It's the freedom to wake up to do what you want to do. And what's really funny is if I had enough money to cover everything in my life plus a ton more, I would still show up every single day. Someone said that to me. They're like, even if you won the lottery, Robbie, you would not show up for your calls tomorrow. And that's freedom, man. Is
that is.
work I get to do every single day. I love doing. I get to sit here and read books and build Legos, and do webinars with my friends and share thoughts and ideas. And I think that's what God put me on this earth to do. So, man, I'm living the dream, and my family's healthy. I'm blessed. Life is good. So I'm excited to share the Turo piece, which is one of my. They always talk about how millionaires have multiple channels of income, and there's a lot of different ones out there. Sometimes I forget about some income, which is a fun feeling to have.
Yeah.
But Turo is one of them. Turo is one of those things where, we consistently make 500 to over 1,000 a month.
Dude, and I think the audience just really keyed into the abundant mentality that
Yeah,
you live in every day. So thank you so much for sharing that.
of
And
course.
man, we are here in episode 15 to dive into one of those, just like you alluded to.
Mhm.
This really peculiar but up and coming. The concept is familiar, but all
Yeah.
of a sudden there's this thing called Turo where you can rent out your vehicle. And I mean, dude, this is when it comes to passive income streams, this is pretty far on the scale to passivity. I mean, I always like to define passive income streams as less than 4 hours a week, like the 4 hour work week type of thing. Man, this is a really unique topic, and I've been very excited for our conversation because I think there's a lot of people out there that have question marks or curiosity around this.
Yeah.
So to start, Robbie, how did you get into it, man? Tell us the story of how you found yourself in this space of Turo.
It was actually, we had all gone down to a mastermind down in Big Sky. And this was right during it was a summer after COVID broke out, right? Was it that summer or was it
Yeah,
summer?
2021. That's correct. Yep.
2021. Yeah, June of 2021. We went down to Big Sky in Montana, and there was no car rentals, unless you were willing to pay $900 per day for a car. And I had used Turo before, briefly. And for those that don't know, if you were to just search it, I mean, you can Google it, of course. But Turo is the Airbnb of vehicles. That's all it is. Is it allows people who have a car, and there's a ton of data that shows that vehicles are the most underutilized things that we have, right? They sit in driveways and in parking lots that are never moving. It's why Uber and Lyft's vision is actually to displace car ownership for so many people. I don't know if that will ever happen because I think people like the independence that comes with a vehicle. Um, but Turo, what they're trying to do is allow people like me the ability to rent out my car when it's not in use. So I was down there, and I found a banger of a deal where I got a brand new truck, and it was $250 per day. But compared to $900 because of all the supply chain issues, and it being I think we flew into Bozeman. Um, that was a screaming deal. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why don't I do that? When I got back, I was like, well, my car sits there, and I'm fortunate enough that 99% of my work happens literally like this. I am a digital base. I'm a work from home person. I go to the office once a week. My real estate team, or Hatch coaching team, I should say, would chirp me because sometimes I don't have my vehicle, so I don't go downtown and they get mad at me about it. But that happens once in a while. But we started Turoing out the car. Um, and it's been, I mean, we can look at the numbers today. It's been just over a year, and I think I've made almost $10,000 in passive income from it. And we're averaging about $40 per day. But more importantly, it's money that costs almost nothing to maintain. And for
Mm,
me, I think I had the perfect vehicle for it. And like we can look at it later, but it's just like a 2014 or 2012 Subaru. It's not as sexy. It's like a mom car, frankly. Um, it's not a really great vehicle. And actually, people that ask me about this, I would recommend not doing a brand new vehicle because there's so much more liability with that. Where I had a guy hit a deer with my car, and the good old Subaru could just take it. It bounced right off and it was fine. Or a light breaks, not a big deal. Where if I had a $40,000 car, I was Turoing out. There's a lot more liability. But anyway, so that's long story short. That's how I started. I got raked over the leaves, raked over the coals, and had to pay a stupid amount for one. I was like, well, I want to make some money. Why don't I do that too?
Man, that is a pain. I think everybody just realized when you were saying it. How many times have I tried to rent a vehicle and
Mm.
I book, Robbie, you're in the mountains of Big Sky, right? So what do? You probably book an SUV and then I get to the car rental spot and they're like, hey, we've got a 2018 Corolla for you to drive, two door. I'm like,
Yep.
dude, I already paid for the
Yeah.
top. So not only that, I mean, you literally can't count on what car you pick. And
Mhm.
because there's no inventory, no rentals, there's the pain. And they feel it too, right? And then there's the high costs, man. These
Yes.
costs are crazy. Like even a year ago when you were talking, they were at like all-time highs. I think they're still up there.
I was still up there.
And
Wow. Yeah.
so I mean, I love business models, everybody does, that solve really great problems for the consumer, right? And that's what Turo's doing. That's what Turo is enabling you to do. So you got into a couple aspects of this.
Yep.
So we really want to learn a lot about Turo. Some people might be hearing us say this word for the first time. So
Mhm.
talk to us about the platform. You explained what it does.
Yep.
This is like you're taking a picture of your car and putting it on an app. Is that my understanding here?
It is literally that simple. I mean, listing it was unbelievably simple. You take some pictures. Of course, the big thing with anything that's a peer reviewed product, because that's what Airbnb does, right? They have review ratings where other people, once they stay with you, rate you and vice versa. We do the same thing with Turo. And the first thing you almost have to do is you have to discount your first 4 to 5 trips to make it appealing for people. Now, what was kind of nice about Fargo was I believe I was either the first or second person to really start doing Turo. And I have the most reviewed, which is a weird title to have, most reviewed vehicle in our area. But without those reviews, people just they don't trust it. And it's funny because that trend has become more and more normal across so many different industries. And of course, I call it the Amazon effect. We go to something, we read the reviews, and we only buy it if it's a well-reviewed product and seems kosher. So, anyways, I discounted my price pretty drastically for the first few, and I've honestly, I would describe it as the biggest pain with Turoing is the management and communication with the people that are renting the vehicle. 4 out of 5 are fabulous people. 4 out of 5. Ideal. They bring it back with more gas than what it had. It's clean. And then 1 out of 5, man, there are some interesting stories. Like the dude that hit a deer, there was beer spilt all over inside the car, all over everything. Now, what's great is I then can document it and charge a cleaning fee if there's any damage that's done. You can document and they bill, and basically Turo would cover that for you. But it's still a pain because what happens is for us, like I'm booked out 25 days a month. Again, basic mom car Subaru. Um, it's pretty consistent. But what happens if someone brings it back, we sometimes have days where it gets brought back at noon and is rented out a few hours later that day, which is no big deal. We bring it to the car wash, do all that good stuff. But if, I don't know, drunk driver hitting deer does that, that's where it's just kind of, once in a while. And that one's actually really rare. I'd say we've only had one or two really bad stories out of the 70 plus trips or so that we. But 4 out of 5 are just so easy, no issues. The other big thing is arranging pickup, right? Because it's a little different. Like an Airbnb, you just put a key somewhere and you put a lockbox on it, and you can do that. And you can do that now with some vehicles. But here in Fargo, with it being a kind of like most of the people are coming in, flying in, and they're flying into Hector.
Yep.
We can't park our cars, of course, in the car rental parking lot. So we oftentimes will either bring it up and drop it off in the short term. And that's really like the only manpower we have in this.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, I have a brother who works for me, and we get a charge. I think it's $65 or $75 per person. So let's say they park or they want to pick it up at Hector. I charge $65 on top of their rental fee. And that's all money in my pocket.
Wow. And that's great, man. And that's pretty common. And okay, so a couple things that I just pulled from this, Robby. You're booked out 25 nights out of a month, over 80%.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, it's
and that's fairly consistent.
It's been very, very consistent. Yeah,
I
was looking at the map earlier today of our earnings, and it's been like January was 697. February, March up here, nobody even wants to go outside, but that was still 540. March 620, April 500, and then May almost 700, June 875, July 1027, August we're trending right around the 500-600 mark again. So it's consistent right around those numbers. And for us, we usually the face value is 40 some a day, and then it auto adjusts if it's not booked out.
Robby, this topic just became extremely important for anybody listening that is someone that has not started making passive income yet, because the accessibility of this, think of someone listening to this that says, hey, I want to create extra income streams. I'd like them to be passive. I haven't started yet. Maybe I don't have a huge amount of savings, but guess what? I work from home and I have a vehicle that sits in a garage, or maybe two vehicles that sit in a garage or a driveway all day, all week.
Correct.
The stats that you just explained to us, I mean, talk about jumping into a passive income stream that can feed savings and investing for everything else going on. This is a great start for people with a passive income mentality. So
if I put a face value, let's just put some return numbers on this for people. I would say the value of the vehicle this was when we bought it. It was about $12,000 years ago. Well, let's just say that's our purchase price, right? Might have actually gone up because of used cars in the market out there.
True.
But this is nothing great. There are some rules about vehicles, by the way, that can't be over a certain age. I forget exactly what they are, but they can be over a certain age and over a certain mileage. If you get in before, you can be grandfathered in with it, but you can't add that as a new vehicle.
So that's good to know. There's some ground rules for this. Okay.
I bought a new Navigator for my family and I. Thank you, 6,000-pound rule from the government. And we had a minivan. I was going to add the minivan, but it had too many miles.
Gotcha. Any idea what that mileage is, Robby?
I think it's 150. I think it's 150, and it can't be more than 10 years old. Okay. I think we were right at 10 years old, but we had 160,000 miles. So I just had to sell it. They have it pretty clear. They weren't even willing to bend it for me. They're not going to bend it for you. No chance.
Yeah.
We tried calling. We're what's known as a super host, and if anyone has some pull, it's going to be people like myself who already have a demonstrated track record of treating their people well, and they're like, no chance. So there's got to be something lawyers have done or something that just won't even allow it.
So Or go ahead, finish your thought, Robbie. Sorry.
So I was going to say the investment hypothetically is called 10 to 15,000. We're averaging, let's just call it 650 per month in revenue. My hard cost on that is an oil change. We don't do it every 3 months. It's about every month and a half to 2 months with the mileage that gets put on it. Sometimes people take long trips, and you can charge additional for the miles. Like they get an allocated amount of miles. Some people literally just use it in town and drive 5 miles. It is so random. I've had people book it last minute and use it to go to Minneapolis. I had one person go all the way to Omaha in it. I think that's the furthest I've seen someone do it. So really the cost for me, which is not a cost, it's a write-off, of course, for I created the whole LLC for this that owns it. Probably what is an oil change? I don't know, call it $50, $50 a month.
Okay, there we go.
50 because we're doing it every other month. That's the hard costs in there. That's it. And those amounts do not include the compensation for any dirty vehicles, things like that, where people have been charged and we make money. Like, honestly,
dude,
car back really dirty, I'm happy because it's $125 in my pocket and it takes 10 minutes to clean it. So I don't care.
So, I mean, what we're talking, roughly speaking, is $12,000 vehicle, $600 a year in oil changes. We're talking 100% return on your investment if you're doing this right, if not right around there. You know?
Yeah, I mean, let's just cut it in half to be safe, but 50% return with very little headache. You know, it's funny because a lot of people want to make some side money and they go to the Uber and want to Lyft. I'm like, no, that's selling your time. This is no time, right? Which is passive.
Right, man.
That's the awesome definition.
That was
Uber,
a great call out there.
People confuse that. They're like, well, it sounds like Uber or Lyft. No. That's active. This is 1% active, 99% passive.
100%. Okay, real quick on this. Turo takes how much? Well, how do they get the win?
It's got to be some percentage. I honestly don't even know. You think I would know that?
And it's probably they charge the user and the host.
They charge. Let's see here. I'm looking up the website just to make sure.
Yeah, this would be good.
Their rates, understanding earnings and host take rate. The host take rate is a percentage you earn of the trip price and some other guest charges. That doesn't really matter. The rate is 60 to 90%. 60 to 90%. 100% on approved reimbursement amounts, including cleaning, missing fuel, low battery, ticket, toll costs, stuff like that. But 60 to 90%. I believe what happens is when you earn things like I have the designation of a special host or whatever the term is called, the all-star host, they give you a higher rate because they expect less bumps from that.
Very good. Okay, so you grow into a higher take.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's Turo's win. Everybody knows they got it. They need to win in this. Insurance wise, you touched a little bit on like how that works, but does Turo also insure your vehicle, or is that just under your insurance? Because
it's actually so Turo has a policy that covers me, and then the drivers opt in. Just like when you're renting a vehicle, you know how they try to sell you, because that's what nobody really knows about is that's where they make their money. They try to upsell you on insurance as the car rental. That's what Turo is doing as well. And there's different packages where Turo will make more or less money depending on if you get the insurance package or not.
Gotcha. But either way, it would default if, like, when you hit a deer or that person hit a deer. Does that hit your insurance policy? Because I know that changes your insurance rates sometimes.
It did not. And he actually, when he hit the deer, it just literally bounced off the car. I had one time where I had to do an insurance claim, and that was through Turo. They always try to have you negotiate with the person who did it first. And Turo was about to pay it, and then the person said, screw it, I'll just pay you directly. So it's that piece is a little, I'll call it a little wild west is how it kind of seems. But if anything, majorly detrimental. I think what happened with ours was like a light fell off or something along those lines. It was something weird like that.
Okay. Okay. And then you had mentioned your pickup where you're literally leaving the car for someone to pick up and it's there for them, which is how awesome
Mhm.
is that? I'm thinking on the user end.
Yep.
Uh, Otherwise, are people generally coming to your home to pick it up? Is that kind of how that
Yeah,
works?
they
Like,
we just literally leave it in the driveway and they come to our house, and it's probably about 60% come to our house, 40% airport.
okay, okay, and I mean, I'm sure some people could create a designated drop off location where the car is if they didn't want people coming to their house, whatever,
100%. Absolutely.
Yes,
That's the one of the reasons that we haven't just scaled this beyond what we've done before is I don't know where I'd park them, and I don't have the time to think about it yet. So for me,
yes,
it's just take the easy money where I'm getting it.
okay. Well, Robbie, we're touching in on so many of my questions with this, and I hope other people's questions with this. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, I want to dive into a few more of the income potential items with Turo, because I know there's multiple things that you touched on, and then just getting into kind of some of your vision behind this
Mhm.
thing. Obviously, you mentioned you kind of have a business around this. There's some
Yep.
systems that I'm hearing. I think that'll be good. But we're going to take a little break and we're going to come back with Robby T right after this.
I like it.
Hey, wanted to take a quick break from this week's episode. Wondering if you ever ask yourself, how do I get started in this stuff? Or if I'm already doing it, what are some next steps or people that are doing the same thing that I want to do, people on this passive income journey? Well, we were getting that question and we created a community of passive income investors called Passive Income University. This is a place where you can watch videos, things that we've done, where we put tools and information, where we've built a community of people that can communicate, ask questions, and grow together to start their passive income journey. And eventually we complete our passive income journey together. If you're interested in more info on Passive Income University, check us out at p25kg.com. All right, we are back on the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom. We're having a blast talking to Robby T about his experience with Turo. Robby, you've already dropped a bunch of great stats and tips and tricks and things that we didn't know about this whole thing. I
Yeah.
want to get back into some of the income numbers and how this stuff can work, because I know people listening are probably starting to scratch numbers on a notepad here.
Yep.
So you dropped some like occupancy numbers. Now you
Mhm.
said like 25 nights a month, or 25 days, I should say.
Yep.
Do you have any idea on like what's normal? Are you like above the bar on this, or
I, I
obviously you've been in it for a while?
I think that's pretty standard, actually. I'm sure there's some markets where there's a heck of a lot more competition. I was just looking at um, stuff in 2021 and 2022, and like the only bad month was December of 2021, and by bad
Okay.
it was probably down to I think it's like a chart, 15 days,
Really,
14,
still 50%.
so 50%. Yeah,
So
and so
back.
you're
So what
like
I'm hearing is the range is like, we'll call it 40 to 90%.
exactly. I'm in a Facebook group with Turo, a bunch of other Turo owners. You get invited once you get into the All Star House thing. And there's some guys, by the way, that build mega fleets. We can talk about this later. Um, but most people tend to be right around this number, I think. And I think that that's going to accelerate for two reasons. One is the model of using regular car rental companies it has a lot of flaws with it, per what you kind
Mm,
of seen. It's very reminiscent of the taxi days versus an Uber. It's pretty darn inconvenient. And at first, it was really sketchy, kind of like getting into a car in an Uber was really sketchy at first. And
that's
I think
true.
Turo has done a really great job of making sure they bring visibility to All Star House and people that have great reviews and holding hosts accountable. Um, to making sure that you're treating people the way you should,
Hmm.
communicating with them. So when they look at it, this is kind of off the beaten path, but you get all star hosts by having a 95% response rate. Um,
Okay.
a 90+% acceptance rate. So you're never declining people.
Okay.
A commitment rate of 95%, which basically means that you keep the trip that you've allowed people to, that you've accepted. And then you have a 90% 5-star rating as well. And thankfully, we're at a 99% response rate. I'm really confused on the one that we didn't respond to, how that would have happened.
Yeah.
97% on acceptance, 99 on commitments. So again, I don't know which one we didn't do. It must have been some weird fluke. And then we're at a 91% or 5-star ratings. I've only had
Gotcha.
one 4-star. And again, it's just doing the simple things. I think if you communicate well, like we don't do anything special besides giving somebody a clean car, which there's actually been a few times where it wasn't as clean as it probably should have been.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I think there's something about people as well. They like giving money to friends and family and the little guy compared to Alamo or Enterprise. But yeah, there's a lot of convenience with it.
That's good. I like the overall mentality of like the scale that this could be, or like why this is going to possibly become widely accepted. Like you say, Uber versus taxis. You know, for people running some rough estimates here, we talked about the occupancy range. When it comes to nightly, or I should say daily, this is different than like Airbnb's daily rentals. Is this usually like the dynamic pricing style that we've heard about, or is it like you set your price and that's what it is? Because I was cruising around on the app before this, and I'm seeing like a BMW for $129 a day, and then I'm seeing stuff down towards $30 a day. Maybe the Subaru is closer. What did you say?
Subaru
$40 a
Forester, 2014. Yeah.
day. Okay. Yeah.
You can choose. You get to choose your pricing, and then when they have something that is dynamic, where it will change your pricing depending on your demand. So you can turn that on or off. I have it turned on because for me, the vehicle sitting in my driveway is wasted income opportunity. That's where my mindset is.
Gotcha.
In earnings so far, this does not include August, so it's January through July. It's $5,445 in, what is that, 7 months? So run the math.
Love it. Very
Um,
nice. Man, and again, that just goes into like when you're thinking about raising capital for other things. I mean, the biggest barrier for other passive income streams is you need cash,
Yep.
and so you need ways to create cash other than your primary job. This is such a cool way. And speaking of Turo, I did a little research on this. There's kind of multiple ways that you collect fees rather than just your daily rate, which is you got your price per day. You talked about some of these fees. Talk to us about the fee structure. Like what kind of fees are getting charged? Obviously, they're deserved if they're getting charged. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, the big one is the pickup and drop off, or the pickup fee, or drop off fee. So if you typically in most cities, because I use Turo now if I travel, oftentimes if I need a vehicle, when you utilize it, there will be a drop off or pickup location that they have that's usually free. But if you want it brought to the airport or something like that, there'll be a airport drop off fee. So that's where we make an additional, it's 65 or 75. I should again know that, but I haven't checked it. And for me, honestly, I charge so much because I don't like to do it. I don't like having to do it. So we just keep increasing it. What we found is when we did that, it used to be 50. When we bumped it, I'm pretty sure it's 75. When we bumped it to 75, we saw a little drop in the demand for it, but a lot more compensation for doing it. And people obviously will pay for convenience. So that's one place. There's the fees on the back end of if somebody doesn't fill up your gas, kind of like if you forget to fill up your gas with the car rental, they gouge you on gas. Except is whatever the price of the cost of gas is plus a fixed amount. I want to say it's between $10 to $25 that you get on top of that. People are actually pretty good on that. They rarely bring it back lower. I think I've only had 2 trips where someone brought less gas in the vehicle than what was put in it when we give it to them. Cleaning fees, if it's pretty egregious. I've never had somebody smoke in the car, thank God. There is an absolute smoking policy
Hmm.
And it's very clear, and you can charge a living. That's one of the highest things you can charge people for is the cleaning to get the smoke smell out.
Hmm.
Um, let's see here.
So cleaning fees, is that we're talking exterior or interior or just interior?
It
Or
generally interior.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's generally understood you're going to be cleaning the car on the exterior just because that does get dirty. I'm sure I've never had someone do this, but I'm sure if it got brought back and if they went out mudding in the Subaru, I'm sure I could charge them for that because it's quite egregious. I've never seen anything like that. It's
Okay.
the interior where I've seen people like again, drunk dude um, hitting the deer.
Yes,
There's still
yes.
all over inside the vehicle. That one was well worthy of. Hey man, you're gonna get charged. He didn't even try fighting it. That's when you know he did some messed up things.
Yes, yeah, man.
And that's why for me, for I think the ideal vehicle is something like a 2014 to 2018, something like that, with not a ton of miles, but it's not in perfect shape. Because here's the reality: they're
Gotcha.
not. This thing is going to get dinged up. It's just what happens with a vehicle, and I can't imagine keeping track of any. And you do a check-in and a check-out procedure where you take pictures of the front, the back, the side to show the state of the
Gotcha.
vehicle. But you know how it is. You're going to miss on a scratch here, not notice it. And I just like some people go and get brand new Teslas, brand new BMWs, and I wouldn't put mine up there. I would say
Yeah.
my type of vehicle is the sweet spot because if you put a ding in the door, I don't care. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. And I was doing a little research on that, Robbie, and it was like saying when you're purchasing a Turo vehicle, you have to hit the age requirement, right? But they said if you can get something below market value,
Mm-hmm.
if if anything happens to it or there's a total loss or there's a replacement that's involved,
Yep.
they will give you the actual market value of the vehicle. And so if you're paying brand new, that, as we know, that you drive off the lot and it's at actual value.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
really the strategy there was, I think I heard the story, a gal had a total loss on her vehicle that she paid $8,000 for, and the actual value was $10,500, and so she made $2,500
Oh,
on a total loss, which you should. I mean, that's inconvenient, but
yeah.
there's also a win that can be created there. So I think that advice you give
Yeah.
is something that definitely I'll take away. Which goes into the category of damage, Robbie. Like, let's say like you have your vehicle out, the Subi's out,
Yep.
and you bring it back and there's a huge dent in the passenger door. It's obvious. And the person even said, "Yeah, this happened." What's the situation there with like fees and how that's handled?
Yeah. So that there's one of two things. You either negotiate. So this is what I went through when I honestly forget what it was. It was like a broken tail light or something. You go directly to them to see if they're willing to pay for the cost. So we went and got a quote from a auto shop to see what it would cost to fix it. Um, and went directly to them. If they're unwilling to pay for it, then you submit a claim with Turo, and Turo that would then cover it. They do suggest that basically that you have to show good faith. And one interesting thing is all communication about Turo communicate just takes place in the app. And you'll notice you can't send like phone numbers because what would happen is just like on Airbnb, I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but they won't allow you to share phone numbers until something is booked because they don't want you to cut them out of the deal, right?
Mm.
Or else people would do that all the time. I used to do that, man. I'd look to save 20% here. I'd be like, hey, what's your phone number? And so they learn they won't allow any contact information like that to be shared because they don't want you to do it off site. And they want their 10 to 30 or 40% that they're getting.
Hmm.
But all that takes place through there. If they fail to communicate, Turo does end up covering it. Again, I was back and forth with this one person. They eventually came around and paid for it.
So I just want to walk people through this. Let's say I always like simplicity, so maybe I'm walking myself through this. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say I find this sweet Subi on Turo. I
Yep.
book the Robby T Subi for 10 days. Let's say in September here.
Yep.
10 days at $40 a day. I'm paying 400. But I want you to understand the potential of the multiple streams here.
Yep.
So let's say I come back with it half tank low. Or, you gave it to me full. I brought it back half tank, which just because convenience, right?
Yep.
So let's say I get charged $25 for that.
Yep.
I had you pick me up at the airport, so there's 75 there.
Yep.
And then I brought it back dirty because you know what? I was having fun and we were out and about, and it was just a convenience thing. It's nothing against the owner, but let's say you charge. What's a cleaning fee usually, Robbie? You say
I think
125.
it's around 100. Depends on the severity of the cleaning that takes place.
So around 100. That's a good number. So
Yep.
all of a sudden, we went from 400 to 600 total for
Mhm.
you. I
Yep.
mean, you have the ability to increase your return by 50%
Hmm.
over the daily rate. And that, I mean, there's power there. So, I mean, I think this hopefully is sparking some like,
What the
why would
way?
I rent my car out for 30 bucks a day? Well, it's more than that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's $30 a day compounded, right? That's what people don't realize about anything with passive income is the power of compounding. I don't generally get a lot of the like. I want to look at my reimbursements for the year so far, and this includes fuel replacement, tickets, tolls, and other things. And I only have one fuel replacement as a reimbursement. That's it.
Okay.
So it's rare. That piece is rare, but
Okay.
that protects your downside of all the annoyances of it.
Yes.
Because the annoyance is, oh, I gotta go fill this thing up with gas. Oh, I gotta go clean it. Things like that. So
100%.
that for me, first off, anyone that's watching this, they probably actually value their time more than their money.
Hmm.
And that's what I like about it is if I do have to make that decision to do something that encroaches upon my time, well, there's compensation for it, which I think is fair. Um, you had said earlier, like, what's the vision? I mean, for me, I've always talked about how if I were to buy kids' vehicles, I'll just go buy some Turos and rent them out a couple of years before my kids get their license, and it's a perfect car for them to get the good old Subaru with miles, and I didn't pay anything for it. I get the thing for free. So doing things like that, you know how humans can be kind of funny like that and like a story to tell. So that's something I'm for sure going to do. Um, I've just been too busy to even think about adding a second, third, or fourth car. But my brother recently came and started working for me, and we have more time now. So that might be something I add to the list. And I've also been waiting for the used car market to slow down, which thankfully it has. Now rates have gone up, and I think for me, I'd probably just pay cash because I can just take the earnings. It all just sits there, and I can go deploy it and go buy another vehicle and um, basically add to my additional costs and just keep stacking and stacking. The one thing that I will say is like, what's great about real estate when you go and get it. Let's say you did get 100, right? You now own 100 homes that are appreciating in value. Man, I do
Hmm.
not want to have 100 Turo vehicles. Screw that noise. That is just not in the cards. But it's a fun little hobby that makes really great returns, and I've enjoyed doing it. I've been pleasantly surprised. Some people are really great. It's fun to kind of meet the people that come through. Um, I would say though, 80% of the time, I never speak to them in person, never see them. They come here,
Wow.
pick up the car, and I've never seen them once in my life. Probably more than that. And
Wow.
there's simple ways for you to do that. You can just leave your car unlocked, and then what you do is you have a key in a lock box underneath the seat. Sure,
Mm.
somebody could ruin your car, but again, I doubt it's going to happen, especially here in Fargo.
Yep.
Um, but they can't break into it and steal the vehicle because the key's in a lockbox. So, and
No
that's
kidding.
that's what most Turo hosts are doing now because it
Okay.
just more convenient.
Well, and I've seen people that do the fleet idea with this. They
Yeah.
start to, which you're talking about that in a practical way with your kids' vehicles, having three
Yes.
kiddos. I love that, by the way.
Where do you park them, Kyle? Is my problem.
That is. I wanted to problem solve that with you. When it comes to storage, especially in like bigger cities, right? If you didn't
Yep.
want your driveway clogged up, I mean, in my, I mean, there is always street parking. I mean, there is probably public places, but you're probably not going to do that for a long period of time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably some thoughts around this in some sense, but that's an interesting question. But it
I,
definitely pays for itself to have like its own storage unit or something like that, with a
totally.
code. But
I For me, I doubt I will grow this past the. I want to push the limits on annoying my neighbors. Um, Maybe get 2 or 3 and rotate them on the street, and that's it. But there's got to be plenty of places like where my mind went when you said problem solve is find a local business owner whose parking lot is empty 99.9% of the time. Say, hey, like think of Hatch Realty's parking lot, right?
That's a
You know,
perfect example, man.
it's empty. Their parking lot is empty the vast majority of the time. I'm sure you could just snag 3 spots and work out some arrangement. And now and by the way, there is actually, I keep getting targeted as a Turo user. I get targeted by ads of companies like this. And there's now an app that is doing what Airbnb and Turo did, but to your garage or to your driveway. So you can rent out your garage or driveway to people if they
For
need
your Turo fleet.
or
Oh
your
my
Turo.
God. Or you can be there's properties. I mean, I live on 4 acres. I'm thinking you just put the parking lot in, and this is where people's Turos are, even though it's out of town.
Yeah, I don't know if it will be quite that crazy, but
That's interesting.
I think it's something that's here to stay. Obviously, Turo is making some decent coin on it, on
Yeah.
every single one. It was one of the things that, because of the pandemic and all the issues that were caused with renting vehicles, really created a lot of popularity. And it's funny because you would think, oh, Turo, it's an app. I would say 30-40% of our people tend to be elderly folks that are utilizing it. So kind of a wide range of users, which I was kind of shocked by.
So, Robby, I mean, you've done a great job covering this. We've hit this from a lot of angles. You've even shared some of the horror stories, the things that have happened to you. I think that comes to like what could happen. I mean, that's a perfect thing. You've shared some positives, kind of the way people are using them, or some of the great experiences you've had. If you think back and help expedite someone that's like, I'm going to do this, expedite their success in doing it. Talk to us about tips, strategy. I'm thinking like ways you've systemized. I know you think like this, so how could you help give someone some advice in this?
Yeah, so I think the simplest thing that you have to be thinking about is the communication, or the biggest pain that you want to think about automating is the communication with your clients. And you've probably seen, if you've ever Airbnb, the automated messages, but you almost have to find ways to do that. Or at least save templates. So here it is. This is a message that you send out when somebody rents with you. I think, as odd as it sounds, put a lot of intention into your profile that answers all those questions for you, and it eliminates most of that.
Love it.
So if you go to our profile, it hits on almost everything. The great thing is it's truly, the biggest advice is you've got to build reviews up. And you got to take extra time in the beginning, humanize it, and then you can start automating from there.
Gotcha. Yeah, you said that you discounted early, right, Robby? You touched on that.
Have to. You got to. Nobody will rent your stuff if you have 0 reviews and you're an unproven host and you're expensive as heck. Nobody will rent your stuff, so you need to just write it off and know that. So, like a good example was that truck I rented. The reason I got it was discounted by like 50% down in Big Sky. So I was like, well, I got to do what he did. And that's why I did it. Because the other Turos that were available in Big Sky were running $400 to $600. And some other people that were at our mastermind had paid to get some of those. And I just happened to find that truck that was half off, which is still a steal and a half for that guy, wherever it was. But you got to be willing to do that to build your reviews up. I think once you get to 10 or so, maybe even a little bit less, you need to worry about it less.
Gotcha. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing when you said humanize it. Like if you are new, tell people you're new. Tell people that's why it's discounted. Tell people, we're giving a deal on our first 10, so there's nothing wrong with the
profile. Put it in the profile. Hey, that's brand new. Guess what? They read the profile, put it in their brand new vehicle, just getting listed, discounting for now to get first bookings. Put it in there. And then people are like, oh, this ain't they're afraid of it being spam. That's the biggest problem with things like this, is they're afraid of it not being a legitimate or real listing, or you being some crazy person that's not going to fulfill it.
Yes. Yeah.
And
tell your story.
Yep.
Help it make sense to people.
Spot on.
the one question that I wrote down that I haven't asked yet was, you're talking about the 2014 Subaru. I feel like we should have a name for this thing at this point.
Subi. It's the
Subi.
Subi.
We're talking about the Subi here.
Yep.
Can you make more by spending more theoretically? Like if you go and get yourself a black Lincoln and you're gonna advertise luxury, does that play, or is that just not? Maybe in Fargo, I bet you it doesn't play. But what's your thoughts on that?
There's just not enough in Fargo, anyways, renters that would justify that from what I've seen. There are some cities where they, like Las Vegas is a really good example, where if you go look at the list of vehicles, you can go rent some high end vehicles. Here's what I'll tell you though. If you want to get a good gauge of whether things rent out or not, go look at the amount of trips that they've done. And what I've seen a lot of times for stuff like that is they don't have trips, which means they're not getting revenue. And there's no point in owning an asset that isn't getting you return. What I love about this thing is it's rented out the vast majority of the time with no advertising at all. Yes. Minimal risk. My risk all in was $11,000 or $12,000, which we've already earned back in less than a year, or not almost earned. What is the number actually? What is it? Let's go look. Let's run the numbers here. 5445. I think it is. Oh, yeah, that's another 4. Yeah, almost 85-90% back in 13 months. Man. Like that's, you can't. There's just not many things that can do that for you, especially in this climate. When you see the stock market down X amount, this is just passive, easy income. But I wouldn't do a vehicle like that. To answer your question, I've had some friends ask, like, should I go get a brand new Tesla? Yeah. I personally wouldn't do a vehicle like that. I think the sweet spot is that about 5 to 8 years old. And for me, like, I don't need fancy cars. That's just not who I am. That's
what about if we went away from quality and we went towards like having a 4-wheel drive? Are they going, or like a larger that can seat 6-8 people?
If I were to do one, I know without any doubt, if you look at, go look at the car rental market, and they charge an arm and a leg for passengers, an SUV or minivan. They're always expensive. So if I were to do it, if I were to buy another one, which I'm going to go do, I'll make a commitment. I'll come back on this after I have 3 vehicles. We can talk about it.
Yes. Very good.
I just committed to spending some money, but it'll be fun. But one of them for sure would be an SUV or honestly a minivan or something that has space for people. I bet you I could be getting 50% more per day on that, or more, maybe double what I'm getting right now. No doubt in my mind.
Spending a little more, but let's say you find something used in that category. Yeah, that's good. That's food for thought, man. Yep. Robby, dude, I am super pumped about this information. I feel like my brain is just running all over with thoughts because of the conversation we've had. And that's a testament to just you being open and honest with us and sharing this part, and then sharing your heart behind it, man, on why you do some of this stuff. Robby, where can people, you've given us some great resources for Turo. How can they book your Turo if they're coming to Fargo? And B, how can they find more about you and everything you're doing just to continue to follow you?
Yeah, man. So first off, if you want the Turo, just
the Subi.
Choose the Subi. We should change the name. They should allow you to nickname it. I think that'd be great. It is just on Turo.com, and I just have the 20. Again, look for the highest investor view. We fortunately got that. If you want to reach out to me, the biggest thing that I say is if you want to become friends with me on Facebook, add me there. Follow me on the TikToks and the Instagrams. Search Robby T. Some people have added Robert Trefethrin on Facebook. That's my dad. And unless you want driving advice because he's a truck driver, probably don't add my dad. Search Robby T. You'll see my face with the kiddos. If you're listening to this on the podcast, of course, and not on the good old Zooms, just find Robby T. You can do it. I believe in you. And then go to hatchcoaching.com if you want to learn about what we do in real estate and how we help people. Hatch Coaching, HATCH, coaching.com.
Man, Robby, thank you so much. Dude, you're a friend. You're someone that I look up to. I love what you're doing. I love your heart behind everything you do. I love the way you treat your wife and your family, and how you plan for that. Dude, you're an intentional guy, and I appreciate you being on here, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for letting me get on. I fulfilled one of my check boxes.
Yes. Bucket list achieved. All right, buddy. We'll take care.
Yeah.
This has been the Passive 25K podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Also, tell us what you thought by leaving a comment below on today's topic. If something really hit with you, don't be afraid to share this with someone else that's interested in passive income. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Passive 25K podcast.